He's been a regular feature at the annual gathering of world leaders in New York, with South Africa a firm believer in the multilateral process that has more often than not been easier on paper and much harder in practice.
We would like to challenge the Assembly today and say, let us set ourselves the target to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the United Nations in 2015 with a reformed, more inclusive, democratic, and representative United Nations Security Council.
One of the many speeches he's given here focused on the reform of UN institutions, including the Security Council, for which he's expressed his government's desire to attain a permanent seat.
I think South Africa must get a permanent seat because it has very independent views, very logical views. We are not talking because we want to please somebody. We are talking because we are adhering to the principles that must govern society, which are agreed by the United Nations. I don't think people should become members of the of the United Nations, simply because they agree with big countries.
He was appointed co-chair of the UN panel on global sustainability in 2010 to explore approaches to a low-carbon green economy, served on a UN educational panel to achieve inclusive education for all in 2012, also a high-level panel on water made up of heads of state to ensure sustainable management of water, while he took over as chair of the Open Government Partnership in 2014, among others.
President Zuma is a great leader. He's a visionary leader, and he's now working as a co-chair of a high-level panel on global sustainability. This global sustainability panel is the one to address a whole spectrum of our issues, how we can lift billions of people from poverty, and how we can address climate change, how we can have a durable and sustainable economic and social development.
South Africa also assumed the presidency of the Security Council in January 2012, during which they ushered in a historic resolution to establish effective steps to enhance the relationship between the AU and the UN in conflict resolution.
It is so decided.
It was also during that 2-year stint in the Council that South Africa controversially voted in favour of a no-fly zone in Libya, allowing NATO to control the airspace in the country in a bombing campaign that would eventually lead to Muammar Gaddafi's demise. The backlash was severe, but Pretoria held firm, arguing they voted in favour of protecting civilians, and later that the resolution was abused for other purposes. This was my discussion with President Zuma in September 2011, 6 months after the Libya vote, and just 1 month before Gaddafi was killed.
We are discussing right now here what is called peaceful means of resolving the conflict. In other words, resolving of conflicts or mediation using diplomacy. And we can't be discussing that, and yet we are using force. I think the issue of Libya really does need to be looked at differently, because we are saying NATO must stop bombing.
And on a lighter note, who can forget this moment in 2015, when then United States President Obama came over to say hello to President Zuma at the Secretary General's luncheon. Mr. Zuma didn't hang up. Mr. Obama moved on. But the social media memes will last and remain for posterity. Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.